Hi guys, and welcome back to my lane, or welcome if you're new here. What I'm doing today is a fall wreath or Thanksgiving wreath, whichever you like to call it. I did a short a while back on a fall wreath, and I got many requests for a full video, so here we go. So everything that I'm using to make this wreath came from the Dollar Tree, down to the scissors that I'm using. I decided to do something a little different this time. When I saw the square wreath rings, I thought that would be a little different instead of using the regular circle wreath rings, but either is fine. If you can find the square wreath ring as well as a square sign, then you can use that, but if not, you can definitely use the circle. I used 5 rolls of decorative mesh, and I didn't need the whole 5. I only ended up using 4 and then part of the 5th one. If you are doubling up and using multiple colors, I would suggest maybe 8 to 10 rolls. When using the decorative mesh, it pretty much stays on its own. You don't need to use a wire to attach it or anything. You just wrap it around the wreath ring, one of the stems, I guess you would call it, in there. I'm using the middle one since it has 3, where the circle ones have 4. And with the round wreath rings, I'll either, if I'm just doing one layer, I'll wrap it around the 2 middle, or I will do like the middle ring, just wrap it around that one, and then do the one farthest to the center if I'm wanting to double up and have 2 layers of the mesh going around. But as you can see, all you do is pull it and pinch it. That's all you're doing the whole time around, is trying to get it around that middle ring or middle wire, and you pull it up as tight as you can so that both ends meet of the mesh, and then you just pinch it, maybe like an inch worth. You pinch it together. I didn't measure anything. I just kind of pulled and pinched as I was going. So never measuring, but I believe it's probably about an inch. If you look at it, it looks like it's an inch that you're pulling each time that you pull it. And you just keep doing that all the way around. The one thing about this is, because it's square, it does kind of get hard when you get close to the corner, just because the mesh kind of gets stuck on that corner a little. But it's pretty simple. It's not too hard. It just kind of gets difficult once you get to those corners. Now, once you come to the end of a roll, you'll start over from a fresh roll. When you get to the end of the roll, you can either just cut it off of that roll because they're attached by staples, or sometimes you can just pull it right off. It just depends on how it's attached. But you'll just start over with your pulling and pinching, and I kind of just hold the end of my last roll that I finished. I hold the end of that and just start pulling and pinching together so that it all comes together. And like I said, this mesh, it stays together pretty well by itself, because it's kind of, I don't know, frayed a little bit and it's stiff, so it sticks together on its own. You don't need to attach it with anything to your wreath ring. And as you see, once you get to one of those points of or lined off points, I don't know what to call it, you just go under that and keep pulling and pinching and holding it all together. So it's pretty simple. No need to cut it when it gets to that point. You just pull it right under that separation. Now you may wonder, how much do I put in each section of the wreath ring? Honestly, I have no idea how much I put in each section or how many, pulling and pinching I do in each section. I don't know. I kind of just do it until my hand gets full or it gets hard to put any more in that section. Then I know it's pretty full. And then I move on to the next section, just going under that separation and then moving on to the next section. So like I said before, nothing is measured. It's just kind of, you're going by feel. And you can see here when I get to the end of the roll how I just cut it off there. Now this is another difficult point in the wreath, and this is the same on both the square and the round, is when you get to that point where it's all coming together, because the mesh is kind of sticking to what's already there on the other side. So as you can see, it's starting to fray a lot, and you can just cut it and push it away if it's getting stuck. But that's really the only difficult part in this, and it's not that difficult, but I would say that's the only difficult part, that and with the square, getting around those corners. But once you finish getting all the mesh on there, then you just kind of cut away all those extra strings, those frayed parts that are sticking off. You can just cut those off so that it looks a little bit more neat. And then once you finish cutting it, then you would start to fluff. So you just fluff everything out so that it looks more full. And also after you fluff, you might see a few more of those strings, and you can just cut those off as well. Now, I didn't do it here, but I have seen others do their wreath with the mesh, and once they finish fluffing and cutting those extra strings off, what they'll do is spray it with an adhesive spray like the Mod Podge spray, just to keep it from fraying any further. Once you finish fluffing and cutting away those extra strands, you can go ahead and attach your sign. Now, depending on what sign you have and also your preference of how you like it, you can just glue it to the back of the wreath. You can glue it right on top, or you can kind of stuff it in as I'm doing and just kind of stuff it into the mesh and attach it to your wreath ring there. So once you decide where you're placing the sign, just apply a little hot glue. I'm applying it to the back since I'm stuffing it in and applying it to the wreath ring in the front. But if you're applying it to the back of your wreath ring, then of course you would apply it to the front of your sign around the edges. Now here is where you will let your creativity fly. You can attach anything to add a little bit more pop to your wreath ring, or to your wreath, I should say. I'm adding leaves and I'm kind of just free for all, just putting it where I think it's needed. So I applied it to the bottom since it wasn't as full once I put the sign on. I think I kind of got some of the mesh under the sign. So I applied some leaves to the bottom, and I'm also going to apply some leaves around the mesh as well, and just attaching those with a little dab of hot glue to each. Now you can add some little pumpkins in there or whatever you would like, just to add a little creativity to your sign. once you finish decorating your wreath, you're going to use the twine so that you can have something to hang it. And I cut about 11 inches of the twine just because I wanted to double it up. And here I again did not measure, so I'm guessing it's about 11 inches, but I don't know for sure. But you don't have to double it up. I've made other wreaths and I just used the single strand. I just decided to double it up this time, but you can do it however you like. Also, you don't have to use the twine. Since we did not put any mesh on that outer wire of the wreath ring, you can definitely just hang it using that. So it's really your preference at this point as well. So as you can see, I'm going to attach that twine to the wreath ring so that I can have it to hang. And all I do is pull it through and allow it to go into a knot basically so that I can hang it onto a wreath hanger. Here's the finished product. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for coming along with me on my lane of fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. I hope to see you back for the next ride. Please like, comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Bye, Remy's Beauties.